Welcome back to Giving on Plum TV. I'm Lisa Shields. I'm joined by Trevor Nielsen of the Global Philanthropy Group. Trevor, I don't need to tell you that we're living in an overstimulated, hyper-stressful world.
Yeah.
I mean, what effect do you think that's having on our kids?
Well, I think that when children are bombarded with messages, we know that they can easily be distracted. You and I are both parents. We've seen the impact on a kid when you're trying to get them to focus on something, but their attention is constantly diverted to something else.
By images and news and Blackberries and iPods
text from their friend,
and
some sort of distraction. And while all of this technology can be a really positive thing, we're also starting to see that it could have a negative impact on kids' ability to get centered and be ready to learn.
And focus is a really important part of that. And one of the things we're going to look at the next piece is Goldie Hawn, who has a program called Mind Up. And her program is helping kids to reduce stress so that they can focus and learn in the classroom. Let's hear from Goldie Hawn.
Writing a check to an organization is wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that it's exceptional. But when you have an ability to understand the subject, when you've done your own studies yourself, when your idea and what you can pass on to someone is of value, then I think it's also part of our responsibility to be, take leadership and take that initiative to create new ideas and be a visionary. I founded this foundation for the purposes of trying to figure out ways to bring children more joy and happiness in their lives. I know it sounds like a very big order, but it is something personal of mine in terms of wanting to bring a little bit more, bring tools to children, basically, to teach them how to do this, how to find some joy. Traditional education isn't working. My contention is that our kids are broken. It's not the schools. So it's a much more epidemic in terms of emotional well-being. So we really need, as a society, to be able to look at these symptoms and try to figure out why these symptoms are occurring. Is it the breakdown of the family? Is it the fact that the television is violent? One of the interesting statistics about that, because I thought, well, if a child is watching television or watching violent movies, they're going to become violent. Something worse happens in these studies, and that is that children become apathetic. They don't care. So their feelings are numbed. They're not responsive to someone in trouble. They don't feel someone else's pain. So empathy, which is something that we really do, help harbor and to, nurture and grow in children in this program, is vitally important, because it's also proven that empathy is actually something that creates dopamine in the brain, and dopamine is a wonderful transmitter that actually creates well-being and productivity in the end. So, looking at the state of schools in America, looking at the apathy of our children, looking at the sense that they just have a hopelessness about them. I know there are kids out there that don't have that. It's wonderful. But as it is, if we are number 17 or 18 as a country, in all the developed countries of the world, as this is where our academic standard is, we're number 17. You can't accept that. And there's a reason for it. I've created a foundation, and this foundation was basically built along with people that are experts in social emotional learning, brain experts on neurobiology, a lot of practitioners as well as educators, and brought them all together to create a curriculum or a program. We've called it Mind Up. And this program really helps harbor and nurture social emotional learning in schools, teach them how to become self-aware. But one of the things that sort of separates this program, I think, is that we teach our children about their own brains. And now that we have all this research and everything in terms of how the brain works, there's a lot of research out there, there's a lot of findings that are pretty quantitative. That's what we have to help our children understand. Why is it that they don't know this? So we've incorporated this inside of our program. And what we do is we sort of have several components. One of them is learning all about the brain. The other one is learning how to be mindful. So you do mindful breathing. And that mindful breathing we do 3 times a day. And what it does is it quiets the child's brain down. It quiets them down. It relaxes them. And they learn how to manage their own stress, because children have tremendous stressors today. And then we have a whole section on mindful of the senses. So that's mindful tasting, mindful hearing, and so forth. And then through this, they have academic applications. So our teachers are able to move this concept through the week or 2 weeks that they keep this one lesson alive. So everything can become applied to their academic standards that these teachers have to meet. But it keeps the classroom culture very optimistic, also very subjective.
Breathe in deeply. Feel your belly rise and fall.
I get a lot of joy when I go to the classrooms and I see these children, and they've changed. And the teachers are saying to me, this has changed my entire classroom. I mean, I actually like coming to school teaching. And the kids are begging for their mindful breathing practice, or they're afraid if the substitute comes in that they won't know how to do the very things that they love to do. So I get tremendous satisfaction out of giving something back that way, which elevates the human spirit. We have to catch up. These old ways of teaching aren't working. And we have children who are afraid, who are hopeless, who are damaged. And it's about awareness. You know, our children in these classes are learning self-awareness. They're learning about themselves in relation to the world. They're learning to become empathetic to their own, to their classmates. It's shown in our studies. So the question is now, what I would like to see happen is social emotional learning applied to a mindful practice for these children every day to reduce their stress, to be able to learn is what my wish is. I would like to be able to think that if we educated our children properly in these ways, socially, emotionally, mindfully, teaching them these ways to manage stress, giving them tools to deal with obstacles, that we'll have a much better world. Our children are going to inherit this world, and they are pure potential. They are born happy, and somewhere along the way, a lot of them lose it. So this is why this has to happen this way.
Where do we sign up? It's amazing.
Yeah, I was really taken by something that Goldie said about the importance of kids being ready to learn.
Right.
We talk about all of our problems in our public schools, and we tend to focus on what schools or what teachers should be doing differently to deliver information. Right. But of course, if students aren't ready to learn, if they're not mindful, if they're not present in those classrooms, how can we expect to have an increase in academic achievement?
Well, and as we saw in the previous piece with Bernard Harris, you need both pieces. You need the math, the science, the curriculum, the tools, and then when you look at what Goldie's talking about, it's the balance.
Right, exactly. And as Nick said, if people aren't aware of these problems, if people aren't focused on the fact that we need to address them, how can we ever expect change to occur?
Right, it's as if they never existed. Well, we've seen 3 really interesting pieces today on people who really understand that awareness and education are really at the root of any kind of creative philanthropy.
Exactly.
Well, Trevor, thanks for joining us. It was a good show today, and thank you for watching Giving on Plum TV. Until next time, I'm Lisa Shields.